Introduction to the cardiovascular system, blood vessels, and blood. Introduction to the blood vessels and blood. Our large, complex bodies need blood to deliver nutrients to and remove waste from our trillions of cells. The heart, as discussed in the previously, pumps blood through the body in a network of blood vessels. Together, these three components, the blood, heart, and vessels, make up the cardiovascular system. Virtually every cell, tissue, organ, and system in the body is impacted by the circulatory system. This includes the generalized and more specialized functions of transport of materials, capillary exchange, maintaining health by transporting white blood cells and various immunoglobulins or antibodies, homeostasis, regulation of body temperature, and helping to maintain acid-base balance. The anatomy of the blood vessels. Blood pumped by the heart flows through a series of vessels known as arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins before returning to the heart. Arteries transport blood away from the heart and branch into smaller vessels, forming arterioles. Arterioles distribute blood to capillary beds, the sites of exchange with the body tissues. A capillary is a microscopic channel that supplies blood to the tissues themselves, a process called perfusion. Exchange of gases and other substances occur in the capillaries between the blood and the surrounding cells and their tissue fluid, or interstitial fluid. For capillaries to function, their walls must be leaky, allowing substances to pass through. Capillaries lead back to small vessels known as venules. Venules are small veins that converge into larger veins. A vein is a blood vessel that conducts blood toward the heart. Compared to arteries, veins are thin-walled vessels with large and irregular lumens. Larger veins are commonly equipped with valves that promote the unidirectional flow of blood toward the heart and prevent backflow toward the capillaries caused by the inherent low blood pressure in veins as well as the pull of gravity. Other ways in which the body assists the transport of venous blood back to the heart involve contractions of skeletal muscles in the extremities, as well as pressure variations caused by breathing motions in the chest. Both arteries and veins have the same three distinct layers, called tunics, for the garments first worn by ancient Romans. From the most interior layer to the outer, these tunics are the tunica intima, the tunica media, and the tunica externa. The smooth muscle in the middle layer, the tunica media, provides the vessel with the ability to vasoconstrict and vasodilate as needed to ensure sufficient blood flow. The major arteries and veins in the human body. Many arteries and veins share the same names, parallel one another throughout the body, and are very similar on the right and left sides of the body. For example, you will find a pair of femoral arteries and a pair of femoral veins with one vessel on each side of the body. In contrast, some vessels closer to the midline of the body, such as the aorta, are unique and not paired. Names of vessels may change with location. Like a street that changes names as it passes through an intersection, an artery or vein can change names as it passes an anatomical landmark. For example, the left subclavian artery becomes the axillary artery as it passes into the axillary region and then becomes the brachial artery as it enters the upper arm. The next two diagrams illustrate the major arteries and veins in the human body. The physiology of the blood vessels. Arteries and veins transport blood in two distinct circuits, the systemic circuit and the pulmonary circuit. Systemic arteries provide blood rich in oxygen to the body's tissues. The blood returned to the heart through systemic veins has less oxygen, since much of the oxygen carried by the arteries has been delivered to the cells. In contrast, in the pulmonary circuit, arteries can carry blood low in oxygen exclusively to the lungs for gas exchange. Pulmonary veins then return freshly oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart to be pumped back out into the systemic circulation. Blood pressure. Blood pressure is the force exerted by blood upon the walls of the blood vessels or the chambers of the heart. Blood pressure may be measured in capillaries and veins, as well as the vessels of the pulmonary circulation. However, the general term blood pressure refers to the pressure of blood flowing in the arteries of the systemic circulation. Blood pressure is one of the critical parameters measured on virtually every patient in every healthcare setting. The technique used was developed more than 100 years ago by the Russian physician Dr. Nikolai Kortykov. Turbulent blood flow through the vessel can be heard as a soft ticking sound while measuring blood pressure. These sounds are known as Kortykov sounds. Blood pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury and is usually obtained from the brachial artery using a sphygmomanometer and a stethoscope. Blood pressure is recorded as a systolic pressure over diastolic pressure. 5 variables influence blood flow and blood pressure: cardiac output, vessel compliance, volume of the blood and viscosity of the blood, and blood vessel length and diameter. Pulse. Each time the heart ejects blood forcefully into the circulation, the arteries must expand and then recoil to accommodate the surge of blood moving through them. This expansion and recoiling of the arterial wall is called the pulse and allows us to measure heart rate. Pulse can be palpated manually by placing the tips of the fingers across an artery that runs close to the body surface, such as the radial artery or the common carotid artery. These sites and other pulse sites are shown in the screenshots at the end. Both the rate and the strength of the pulse are important clinically. A high or irregular pulse can be caused by physical activity or other temporary factors, but it may also indicate a heart condition. The pulse strength indicates the strength of the ventricular contraction and cardiac output. If the pulse is strong, then systolic pressure is high. If the pulse is weak, systolic pressure has fallen, and medical intervention may be warranted. The anatomy of blood and the functions of the components. Blood is a connective tissue made up of cellular elements and an extracellular matrix. The cellular elements are referred to as formed elements and include red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. The extracellular matrix, called plasma, makes blood unique among connective tissues because it is fluid. This fluid, which is mostly water, perpetually suspends the formed elements and enables them to circulate throughout the body within the cardiovascular system. Blood makes up approximately 8% of adult body weight. In the laboratory, blood samples are often centrifuged in order to separate the components of blood from one another. Erythrocytes are the heaviest elements in blood and settled at the very bottom of the tube. Above the erythrocyte layer, we see the buffy coat, a pale, thin layer of leukocytes and thrombocytes, which together make up less than 1% of the sample of whole blood. Above the buffy coat is the blood plasma, normally a pale straw-colored fluid, which makes up the remainder of the sample.